Welcome everyone for the part 3 of Unity Catalog. So this session we'll talk about the Databricks cluster that is required to create for enabling Unity Catalog. Then we'll create the storage and the user requirement. Then finally we'll create the metastore. I will cover a lot more points in between, but these are the major topics that we are going to cover in part 3. Databricks cluster. So in order to use Unity Catalog and access the data, the Databricks cluster must be configured with the correct access mode. The last two access mode, like no isolation shared and custom, is cannot be used at this moment, but the single user mode and shared access mode can be used to access the Unity Catalog. I had provided the complete details on this different access mode in one of my cluster configuration video, and I'll provide that link down below. You can go back and check what exactly this access mode. Now we'll talk about supported compute and the limitations in Databricks to implement Unity Catalog. The cluster version that support Unity Catalog is 11.3 LTS and above versions. But if you look at the SQL warehouse, it is by default it is supporting Unity Catalog, right? So the the limitations are not very major limitation that prevent the organization to use Unity Catalog, but we can overcome this limitation using different approaches. But I would like to list down all these limitations here. So in case if you want to take care before going with the Unity Catalog approach in your organization. So one thing is, the first one is R is supported only on cluster that use single user access mode. So what is single user access mode? It is visible only to users, and this also supports Python, SQL, Scala, and R languages. So that should not be an issue. But the problem is it is designed for individual use. A user can create a single machine compute resource in Databricks for their own personal use, right? If you're a big R user, then you need to make sure that it is suitable for your organization. It may not be one single user, or maybe so people are using R, Python, or combination of these things. So you can adjust that, right? The next is to use Scala on a cluster that use shared access mode. The cluster must be on Databricks runtime 13.3 or above. Yes, Unity Catalog supports 11.3 and above, but if you are a Scala user, if your programs are running mainly on Scala, then you need to make sure that the runtime version is 13.3 or above. The next one is workload that use Databricks runtime for machine learning are supported only on clusters that use single user access mode. It is the same limitation that we have seen in case of R. In Databricks runtime 13.1 and above, shallow clones are not supported. Shallow clones are supported to create Unity Catalog, manage tables from existing Unity Catalog managed tables. If you're not aware of shallow clones, please go through the video provided down. I have given separate session on shallow clone tables. Next is the major one, writing to the same path or delta lake table from workspaces in multiple regions can lead to unreliable performance if some clusters access Unity Catalog and others do not. So normally what you can do, you can have all the workspaces in the same region so that this issue you can avoid, right? And also you can have lot more process in your organization, like how data engineers access the data or data scientists access the data. So normally what happens is you pull the data from multiple sources as a data engineer, clean it, cleanse it, and keep it in one location. So this data will be the base data for any of the use case, right? So this table, the access to this table is controlled, and nobody is going to write it into the same place or path other than data engineers. So data scientists can read this data and write it into their own uh, path, different folder path. And another thing is overwrite mode for data frame write operations into Unity catalog is supported only for Delta tables, not for other file formats like Parquet or Avro, those formats. Groups that were previously created in a workspace cannot be used in Unity catalog grant statements. Meaning, if the Unity catalog is created, you need to recreate the groups. The last one I noted down is in Databricks runtime 13.1 and below, you cannot use Python UDS, including UDS, UDTFs, and pandas on Spark. But you can migrate all your code into the latest version, so it is not a very big deal for you guys if you want to migrate from lower version to the new version. Now we will see metastore. A metastore is the top level container of objects in Unity catalog. I have given the complete levels in the Unity catalog in the part 1 of this video, right? So metastores stores metadata about data assets that includes tables and views, and also provide the permission that govern the entire access to them. And for each region, we should create one metastore. Right? Now, before creating metastore, you should have certain requirements. If you want to create metastore, you should be Azure Databricks account admin. So first, Azure Databricks account admin must be an Entra ID. And if the user login into the Databricks, then that user becomes Azure Databricks account admin and no longer required Entra ID. And this admin user can add additional users as admin later, right? And the second thing is the workspace that you attach to the metastore must be on the Azure Databricks premium plan. We know that we have multiple plans available, right? There are free available, trial version is available, premium is there, so it should be always premium. And the third point is you must have permission to create storage account, and you should have the contributor or owner of the resource group in any subscription in the tenant. So a new resource is required to hold a system assigned managed identity to access Unity catalog. Now, to create a metastore, we have to complete multiple steps. The first one is like you need to have the storage container, right? The storage container also must be in a premium performance Azure Data Lake Store Gen 2 account, and keep it in the same region as the workspace, right? Then we need to have one identity that Azure Databricks used to give access to the storage container that we just created. We can use either Azure Managed Identity or Service Principal as the identity that gives access to the metastore storage container. Then once we have this, we can give Azure Databricks with the storage, container path, and identity. All right, so we will go through all these steps and understand how we can create the metastore, right from creating the storage account, creating the Databricks workspace, then we'll create the connector, Databricks connector to have the managed identity, then finally create the metastore. Okay, let's see how we can create the metastore and what are the services required before creating the metastore. Definitely we need storage where you can store the metastore, and also it can connect to the storage, right? If I want to showcase the demo, we need to store the data, create the delta table, create the metastore, connect to it. Second service we need is the Databricks connector, right? That Unity catalog connect to the storage through the Databricks connector. And we also create the workspace. We need a Databricks workspace. That workspace connect to the storage using the Databricks connector. And using the console, we will create the metastore. So we will see all this process together. So the storage I already created for this demo. The only thing that you need to make sure is the storage should be premium. And it should be gen 2. Hierarchical namespace should be open. Remaining things you don't need to worry about it, right? So this should be premium, and hierarchical namespace should be enabled it. Now let's go and create the connector, right? Select here, type Databricks, and that will open up another window where you can see Azure Databricks and the connector for Azure Databricks. Just select this and create. While creating, make sure that all your services are in the same region, right? So I just created Unity cat RG resource group. Select the same resource group and give your name. So all other services, that storage and the Databricks workspace, I created in East US2. So select the same thing and finally review and create it. All other settings are not relevant for this demo. Deployment succeeded. Let's go to the resource and let me pin that in my dashboard. Okay, close this, and in the resource you can see we have the Unity catalog, data storage, Databricks workspace, and the connector, right? So you need to copy the resource ID. This is required while connecting to our storage, right? Now the second point that you need to keep in mind is you need to provide access to this Databricks connector to connect to this storage. How will you give? Just go there. On the left hand side you can see access control. Click there and click add and the role assignment. Type storage blob and you can see storage blob data contributor. Select this data contributor, click on next, and here you can see managed identity, user or group. Here you need to select managed identity and then select the members, right? So here you can see all system assign managed identity. That will list out all the managed identities you created, and here this is the Databricks connector you just now we created, right? Just select that and click select here. Once review and assign, that will make sure that the new Databricks connector having access to the storage. Okay, so the role assignment is completed. These two are connected. Now let's go to the Databricks workspace, launch the workspace. Okay, now let's go and create the compute first. So this cluster is already there. Let me delete this. Oh, sorry. don't want this, let's delete. And I'm going to create a new compute cluster unity catalog. And as I told you before, make sure that you're not enabled credential pass-through, right? And all other things is fine for this demo. You don't need to worry about anything. Just click create compute. See how we can create a metastore. For that, on the right hand side, you can click on your username and select manage account. That will open the console, Databricks console, right? And on the left hand side, you can click on data, and on the right hand side you can see create metastore button. Just click that, and here you need to provide the name. So my unity catalog meta, and the region, make sure you are keeping the same region that you created for storage account and Databricks connector and all other services required. Look at ADLS Gen 2 path. You need to give container name, storage account name, then dfs.core.windows.net/path. So if you look at here, I have two folder I created inside the Gen 2, mart and a row. Row I kept it here to keep all the row files, and mart is the final processed table I stored, right? And if you look at this, the name of the storage is unity cat storage. So I already copied here. This is what we need to paste it there. I am giving just the mart level access there, right? So you can give the path here, and look at the access connector ID. So access connector ID is the resource ID that we got it when we created the Databricks connector. That also I copied here. Just select this, select the resource ID and paste it here, right? Now once you create, what happens, this storage is connected to Databricks via this resource connector ID, and the resource connector ID we have provided access to our storage account before this step, right? Now click on create. That will create your metastore. So once your metastore is up, the next step is we need to assign the workspace, Databricks cluster workspace. You can add multiple workspace to the same metastore, right? Now we have one workspace, so let's select that one and assign. Okay, so this will give you one dialog box, just like a warning, and you need to make sure that these all are understood by yourself, and because you'll not be able to revert it back, right? Okay, then enable it. So your metastore and the unity catalog is ready, and this is what I'm included in this session. Stay tuned. I will give in-depth details on unity catalog in the next session. Creating the schemas, volume, tables, how to manage the tables, all those things we will cover in the next session. Thank you. If you would like to receive more such videos, please like and subscribe to my channel. Also, if you would like to connect with me, I have provided my details here, my email and LinkedIn. So thank you very much.